Why, hello there, I'm Professor Joel, and welcome to another episode of Planet Scooby Reviews. Today we are covering The Ghost of the Red Baron, which is episode 11 of the first season of the new Scooby-Doo movies, and it originally aired on November 18th, 1972. This episode sees the gang on a farm where the crops are dying as planes cannot get in the air to properly fertilize their crops due to the ghost of the Red Baron haunting the sky. The Red Baron is based on a real German pilot from World War I, and he won 80 air combats during that era due to his fighter pilot skills. He has a fascinating history, and if you are interested in learning more about him, I suggest you just hop on Google and put in his name, and you will certainly find out a ton of information about him. I just can't do him justice. I know a bit, but not enough to speak boldly about this historical character. My favorite take on the Red Baron has always been the Red Beagle, found in Peanuts comics, where Snoopy kind of does a parody of him on his doghouse. They even mention Scooby in this episode. Despite being a fan of the Three Stooges who star in this episode, I wasn't really looking forward to this review because I didn't like the last Three Stooges episode. I just don't think the Three Stooges, when they are made into cartoons, are really that good. I like my Three Stooges live, you know. The physical comedy just doesn't translate well to cartoon. And, you know, I tried to keep an open mind going into this, but I also had low expectations. So with my low expectations and open mind, was I pleasantly surprised or was I bored out of my skull? Let's find out. The episode begins with the Mystery Machine driving past a farm for sale as they go on a shortcut designed by Shaggy because he wants to admire the rows of corn on this delicious road. Velma takes note that some farms have ruined and brown crops of corn while other farms have healthy corn.
You and your shortcuts, Shaggy. This place gives me the creeps.
It's like no man's land.
Last month, all these farms were green and covered with healthy vegetables.
In the sky, they see a crop duster spraying fertilizer on the crops. The same plane is soon driven off by the Red Baron as he flies by in his biplane and forces the crop duster out of the sky.
Wow! That's a German Folkert from World War I. The same kind used by Baron von Richthofen.
The Red Baron?
Red Baron's trying to force him down.
The Baron's plane also chases the Mystery Machine into a cornfield where they smash up 2 acres of corn until they finally emerge from the field with a flat tire. Talking to the farmer and the pilot and the farmer's supervisor or farmhand or whatever, they discover the farmer is quite angry as his crop of corn was smashed up by the Mystery Machine, but he is even angrier when the pilot quits.
Yeah, Mr. Sawyer, nothing's busted.
Except my corn. You ground up 2 acres.
That crazy red plane forced us into the cornfield.
I quit.
You can't quit now. That's the 5th pilot that's quit this month. You signed a contract to fertilize my corn. They've all heard about the Red Baron.
The pilot's supervisor, whose name is Mr. Sawyer, we find that out later, says this is the 50th pilot to quit as everyone is terrified of the Red Baron. Fortunately, as if on cue, the Three Stooges show up and Curly volunteers to fly the plane after seeing a job advertisement for the position. Curly gives the crop duster a test drive, but Scooby takes control of the plane and performs some amazing in-air stunts that impresses the supervisor, who offers to pay Curly double because they think Curly is behind all the stunts, but in fact it is Scooby. At the airport, Freddy is changing his tire, and Shaggy wants to get out of there fast, but Freddy wants to see if the Red Baron comes back when Curly flies the plane tomorrow. The gang also meet Andrew Terra. He's the plane hangar mechanic who warns them that this place isn't safe and tells them to get out.
You are the ones who smashed the wheels? Andrew Terra, the mechanic who keeps these miserable wrecks flying. Mr. Siegfried ordered me to repair the wheels. He manages the airport for Mr. Sawyer. This is not a fit place for man or beast.
The ghost of the Red Baron, he tells them, has been haunting the area and he won't let any airplanes fly. Andrew then quickly excuses himself after hearing the gang gloat about Curly's terrific pilot skills. Shortly after, someone turns on an airplane and that chases the gang about the empty hangar. The gang then meet Mr. Siegfried, the airport manager, who tells them to leave, but Velma and Freddy are insistent to stay.
We've just been buzzed by a pilotless aircraft.
Strange things have been happening around here.
You must be Mr. Siegfried, the airport manager.
Yipes! Like now we've met two creeps.
Everyone goes to sleep, so it's nighttime now, and the ghost of the Red Baron is flying high in the sky, giving everyone a fright once more with his dangerous flying. The Red Baron drops a note that says, "The Red Baron strikes again. Leave at once or face the inevitable."
The Red Baron strikes again. Leave at once or face the inevitable.
The gang and the Stooges follow the Red Baron where he has landed, but the airplane is gone. The two pairs of groups decide to padlock themselves in an airport hangar where they will be safe. Their plan is foiled as the Red Baron has a pair of bolt cutters and cuts the chain leading into the hangar. There he haunts the Stooges and the gang once more. Freddy sees that the chain is cut, so he realizes they aren't dealing with a ghost, as a ghost wouldn't have a pair of bolt cutters. Despite his suspicions, we see the ghost of the Red Baron float after Scooby and Shaggy and gives them a chase until they are able to hide in the Mystery Machine. The Baron then crashes through a window and hops, like an Easter bunny, off into a cornfield. Velma sees a droopy plant in Mr. Sawyer's office, and Mr. Sawyer says he's been putting fertilizer on it, but the plant just keeps dying.
You've got tons of fertilizer in the hangar, and this droopy plant looks like it's starving to death.
I don't understand it either. I keep putting fertilizer on it every day, and it gets worse instead of better.
Velma has her suspicions and goes to investigate the fertilizer, but is chased off by a hopping and floating Red Baron. A long chase takes place with Velma in the sky in an airplane with no clue how to fly it, and the Red Baron's plane also takes to the sky. Without the Red Baron, we see the Red Baron operating it remotely on top of a control antenna. The Three Stooges also hop in an airplane to help out, and we get like 10 minutes or 15 minutes of chase hijinks in the sky, with Freddy and Daphne manning the control panel to assist everyone out and getting safely landed. Eventually everyone does land, and Velma, well, she crashes her plane, but she's safe when she lands, and Velma finds boxes of empty weed killer.
That's strange, this patch of tall weeds. I think someone's dumped a lot of fertilizer by these big weeds and filled the fertilizer bags with weed killer. Hey, look, weed killer. Something sure is fishy. A plant in the tower wilts from fertilizer, and a bunch of weeds grow 4 feet high.
And she suspects the fertilizer was replaced with this weed killer, which is killing all the corn crops in the neighborhood.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Shaggy also finds a farmhouse used as a garage, and Velma suspects it's where the Red Baron is hiding out. They see an ultrasonic lock on it, so now they know whoever lives there really doesn't want to be investigated, so they obviously investigate. Outside, Freddy and the girls see the Red Baron drive into the hangar with his Jeep loaded up with fertilizer/weed killer, and as he enters, the three of them run in where they see the Red Baron hop around once more. The Red Baron spots them and locks them in there, and the Three Stooges are also locked in there as well. Scooby and Shaggy eventually come across everyone, and they let the Stooges and the rest of the gang out of the airport barn. We finally get our last chase scene in the sky where Freddy and the girls, along with the Stooges, chase the Red Baron around. Meanwhile, Shaggy uses the remote control planes they discovered earlier to chase the Red Baron, and this goes on forever until the Red Baron eventually lands and hops into his Jeep, but Curly lands his plane on the Red Baron's Jeep and traps him. Ripping the mask off, it turns out to be Siegfried, the hangar manager.
Who's this? Good grief, it's Siegfried!
I was positive it was old Mr. Terra. Jinkies!
Siegfried wanted to ruin all the crops so he could buy up the farms. He wanted to do this because they were planning on building a super jet airport in the area, so if he bought these farms up dirt cheap, he could sell them for a hefty profit.
Siegfried posed as the ghost of the Red Baron and spooked the airport to scare away all the legitimate pilots.
Then switched weed killer into the fertilizer bags so he could ruin all the crops.
The county is planning to buy the surrounding farms and the airport so they can expand it into a jet field.
And you were poisoning the crops so you could buy the farms dirt cheap.
And the airport runway, cheap.
And then sell them back to the county at a big profit.
Curses, Mr. Baron. Foiled again.
We also learned the Red Baron was floating around on a cable and he could hop around with spring-loaded coils in his boots. With another mystery solved, the gang head off on their next adventure. I give this episode a 5 out of 10. This episode was basically garbage. It was okay, but I'll never want to watch this one again. It was very boring, packed with padding, nonsense, just And it started off so strong. I liked the first 10, 15 minutes. We get to see the ghost of the Red Baron. He's pretty cool, flying his biplane around, terrorizing the sky. The character design was cool, but then they just turn him into like some weird comedy effect where he just hops around like the Easter Bunny. Very stupid. I liked how he could fly, and he did smash through a plate glass window, but other than that, no personality, just very boring. And I was so excited to get a cool villain for once in this series. We've had it before, but it's rare. We usually get like a bunch of different villains who don't have much screen time, but this we got, a singular villain, and they don't do anything with them. And a lot of this episode again is just plane dogfights, plane flights in the sky. And we're introduced to a few suspects, but they don't get much in the way of screen time, so we don't understand their motives or anything. So when they reveal who the villain is, we're just like, I don't even know who that is, or I don't even care. And even the Three Stooges, they don't have much to do. They don't even get that much screen time, except for Curly. And Curly gets screen time because he flies the plane, and that's really all the Stooges do in this episode. They're not even basically themselves other than how they look. I think I did like this better than the first Three Stooges episode in a few ways, but in other ways I didn't like it as much because that first episode with the Three Stooges was such a mess. It was so bizarre that I'm going to remember it. This episode, I won't remember. And I know there's always someone out there who will love an episode that I kind of, dislike. And I'm sorry I put down your favorite episode. Don't get hurt. If we all had the same opinion, life just would not be interesting. And if this is your favorite episode, I totally get it. And yeah, I'm happy for you. You do you, right? Anyway, once again, thank you for any likes, views, subscribes, and shares. It's always great to see that my videos are getting views and whatnot. People seem to be liking it. I do put a lot of time into these episodes, usually about 10 plus hours. Takes up a big portion of my weekend. Once again, thank you. I appreciate it. This wraps up another episode, and until next week when we will be covering the ghostly creep from the deep, which will star the Harlem Globetrotters, stay spooky.
Very interesting.